It's Ross, are you okay? Talk to me, Raj!
The writers of the Amazing World of Gumball once wrote a scene where the main character had no choice: kill someone or lose everything. And what makes it disturbing isn't what happened on screen, it's what the show was actually trying to say. This is a show that aired on Cartoon Network, a kids' channel. But buried inside one specific episode is a moment so dark, so deliberately constructed, that grown adults are still talking about it online years later. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what that moment was, why the writers made that call, and what it reveals about the entire philosophy behind this show. There's also something about the character who got written out that almost nobody has talked about, a detail that changes how the whole story reads. We'll get to that.
It's you. Oh, Rose.
That's not even a man!
If you only watched the first season of Gumball, you'd be forgiven for thinking it was just a silly cartoon. Cat Kid, Goldfish Brother, weird family, absurd situations. But the crew behind this show had a longer game in mind. Creator Ben Bockelay didn't want to make a safe cartoon. He wanted to make something that used the safety of a cartoon as cover. The early seasons lured audiences in with gags. Simple, fast, visual humor designed to hook kids. But quietly, episode by episode, the show started doing something different. It started asking what happens when cartoon logic meets real emotional consequences. Characters started having actual regrets. Relationships had friction that didn't resolve by the end of the episode. And the older the audience got, the more they noticed. The animation itself changed. The colors got heavier, the stakes got higher, and the jokes stopped being just jokes. They started being delivery systems for something harder. Here's what's important to understand though. The show's dark turn wasn't a network mandate. It wasn't the writers burning out and getting cynical. It was planned. One character was placed in this story from nearly the very beginning, specifically to be a casualty of that plan. And most people who watch this show never even registered his name. His name was Rob.
Is it me, or does this music have a whole different vibe to the situation?
And for the first couple of seasons, he was wallpaper. He appeared in hallways, in classrooms, in the background of scenes that had nothing to do with him. He had no lines, no story, no defining moment. He was, for all intents and purposes, a background extra in his own life. Then came the season 3 episode called The Nobody, and it changed everything. Rob discovers something in this episode that the show presents with complete sincerity. He has no story, no arc, no purpose. He fell, at some point between episodes, into something the show calls the void, a place the universe uses to discard its mistakes, things that don't fit, things that have no narrative reason to exist. Rob was one of those things. Stop and think about that concept for a second. This is a children's cartoon presenting the idea that certain people are deemed cosmically irrelevant, written off by existence itself, not because they did anything wrong, just because the story never had a place for them, and the show doesn't soften it. Rob isn't rescued before he fully understands what happened to him. He knows he was a mistake the universe tried to erase. By the time Gumball finds him, Rob is already changed. The void damaged him. His appearance, his voice, his sense of reality, all of it warped. He came back wrong, and Gumball, being Gumball, pulls him out anyway, which sounds like a happy ending. It is not a happy ending. Here's the part of this story that the fandom doesn't talk about enough. When Gumball saved Rob, he didn't fix anything. He just relocated the problem. Rob came back to a world that had already moved on without him. Nobody remembered him. Nobody had missed him. There was no vacancy in anyone's life where Rob was supposed to go. And Gumball went right back to his life, his family, his friends, his adventures. He saved Rob the way you might save a stranger from drowning, and then go home for dinner. It wasn't cruel, it wasn't intentional, but the road to what happens next is paved entirely with good intentions. Over the following episodes, something shifts in Rob. The resentment builds slowly. He watches Gumball get everything: love, friendship, significance, while Rob has nothing but the memory of the void and the knowledge that nobody would notice if he went back. He starts to see Gumball not as a savior, but as a reminder, a constant, living reminder that Rob is still the mistake, still the background character, still irrelevant. And that is when Rob stops being a lost kid trying to find his place. That is when he becomes a villain.
Can't you see that none of this is real?
Season 4. The episode is called The Disaster. Rob gets hold of a universal remote control. Not a TV remote, a remote that controls reality. Fast forward, rewind, delete, pause. He can do anything with it, and he uses it to take Gumball's world apart, piece by piece. He rewinds Nicole screaming until she's trapped in a loop. He deletes Darwin, just removes him from existence. He fast-forwards Gumball's dad through years of his life in seconds. These aren't cartoon injuries that bounce back after a commercial break. The show frames these as real losses, and Gumball can't stop any of it. What makes this episode hit differently from your standard cartoon villain story is what Rob says while he's doing it. He's not monologuing about world domination, he's explaining. He's telling Gumball exactly what it felt like to be erased, to watch everyone around you live a full life while you simply didn't exist. Every scene he destroys is a lesson. This is what the void felt like. This is what you saved me from, and then left me to live with. It's one of the most emotionally coherent villain motivations ever written into a Cartoon Network show. And it sets up a confrontation that the writers had clearly been planning for a long time. The follow-up episode is called The Rerun. Gumball gets the remote back, and now he has the power. He can fix everything. Rewind to before any of this happened. Put the world back the way it was. But to do that, to truly reset the timeline, Rob has to go back to before he was rescued, back to the void. The show is very careful here. It doesn't let Gumball be comfortable with this. He knows what the void is. He knows what it did to Rob. He knows that pressing rewind isn't just undoing the last few days. It's undoing Rob, his memories, his anger, his pain, his identity. Everything Rob became after Gumball pulled him out. Gone. And the show asks the question out loud. Is that killing someone? If you erase everything a person has experienced, everything that made them who they are, and you reset them to a blank, does it matter that their body is technically still there? Gumball does it. He presses the button. He sends Rob back, and the show does not celebrate it. There is no moment of victory, no triumphant pose. Just a kid who made a terrible choice because all his other choices were worse. That is the kill. That is the moment this show earned everything it had been building toward.
Me that remote, you little...
Here's what this whole storyline was actually about. Ben Bacalé built Rob as a mirror, not just for Gumball, for the audience. Rob is every background character who never got a story. Every person who felt overlooked, written out, filed away under irrelevant. The show took that feeling, a feeling a lot of kids carry around, and made it literal. And then it asked a question most cartoons never dare to ask. What do you owe the people you accidentally hurt? Gumball didn't create the void. He didn't make Rob a background character. He didn't design a universe that discards people who don't fit. But he was the one who reached in and pulled Rob out. And that act of kindness, that impulsive, well-meaning rescue, made him responsible for everything that followed. That's the thing about good intentions in the real world. They don't cancel consequences. You can do something kind and still cause damage. You can save someone and still fail them. And sometimes the only way to protect the people you love is to hurt the person you were supposed to be protecting. The kill, the reset, wasn't a villain losing. It wasn't a hero winning. It was a 12-year-old cartoon cat learning that some mistakes can't be fixed. They can only be managed. And managing them costs something every time. The Amazing World of Gumball used the language of children's television to hide a story about guilt, consequence, and the weight of good intentions. They wrapped it in bright colors and physical comedy. They made sure casual viewers could watch every episode and never feel the weight of it. But for the people paying attention, for the ones who grew up with this show and couldn't quite explain why it stayed with them, this is why. Rob isn't just a forgotten villain. He might be the most important character the show ever created, because he's the one who proved that Gumball was never really a kid's show. It was a kid's show that trusted its audience to grow up. I want to know what you think. Do you believe Gumball made the right call, or was there another way out? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely read every single one on this channel, and this particular question, there are two very different ways to answer it, and both of them are right. If this video got you thinking about how Gumball hid serious themes inside a cartoon, you need to watch the next one. It covers the episode where the show completely broke its own format. No jokes, no gags, no safety net, and what that episode was actually responding to inside the writer's room. It reframes everything you thought you knew about how this show was built. It's right there. Watch it next.
Time to eject you, once and for all.